What is happening out there, Roto Scouts basketball fans? Almost forgot what we were here for. Almost said baseball. Knew that was wrong. Then almost said football. Probably not going to have one of those tonight. We've got projections up for football tonight. I don't think I'm going to bounce back for a 6 o'clock show while doing NBA lineups. It seems unlikely. But we do have projections up for football. But this is a basketball show. Welcome to the Roto Scouts NBA DFS show for Monday. An exciting Monday. Looks like I got a little... My eye look red. My eye looks a little red, doesn't it? Like right down there on the eyelid. Just noticing that. Hope I'm not getting like a sty on my eye. That'd be fun. Welcome to Ophthalmology Show. Got Kevin O here. We've got Steven Leibowitz. Cujo Blue is here. What's going on, guys? Good to see everybody. Nice, easygoing kind of a Monday. Up early, knocked out minutes and projections and all that stuff early, and then this slate's just been changing minute after minute all day long. Big 12 gamer. A lot of action. We've got a lot of known knowns, a lot of known unknowns. As Mr. Rumsfeld liked to put it back in the day. Not to quote too many people from politics, to put it nicely. But some of the current notes, these are all in the projections, by the way. I'm trying to put them in projections when I do updates. I think that's important, and I don't think enough sites do that. So I'm trying to do that. I'm going to try and keep up with it. Where, like, if news breaks, I'll try and drop it in there real quick as, like, a update notes. And then I'll give you a status on, like, projection update pending while I'm updating it. And then I'll have a note about what changed, so that you can kind of like make changes on the fly in your own stuff. So that, or like at least you have context for what changed. I was thinking about doing like a separate article just through the day, like minutes is what I was thinking about calling it, which is cheesy, I know, but also, kind of works. But I don't know if I want to, like, as it gets closer and closer to lock, it'll be more difficult to keep both in line, so then I'd always be saying like defer to the projections. So I don't know if that'll fly, but I do have the notes in the projections. Projections are updated past the 3:30 update. 3:52 was the last update. Most recent news was Jokic is probable now. Draymond is questionable. Luka, Kyrie are both questionable. Derek White is out. Kristaps is questionable. He's got an eye thing too. I guess I shouldn't have made fun of his eye thing. Maybe that's why my eyelid is red. I was not at the Bored Apes Yacht Club convention. Apparently a bunch of those guys got their eyelids burned, or their eyes burned by the audiovisual equipment at their convention and had to go to the hospital and woke up blind. That's what you get for trusting people that are selling you pictures of cartoon monkeys. Cujo Blue says, crazy Monday only in NBA DFS. Yeah, it's been a fun one so far. Really has. A couple of the other pieces of information that might be... Let me actually reload Underdog, see if anything popped up. Yeah, just same stuff I was just reading off. Keldon Johnson is another questionable. Markelle Fultz out, we got early. Jackson Hayes out, we got early. Doesn't really matter that much. Jimmy Butler's probable. Caruso, Pat Williams, Duncan Robinson, Lonnie Walker. Derek White is out. I got to change that one. And a weird, interesting piece of news that could potentially be very big, it came fairly early in the day, was that SGA went from out to questionable. Was at the shoot around. Haven't gotten any kind of confirmation since then. I've got him projected in right now. I guess I was figuring like if that news broke, he would probably play. Outside of Kyrie, Luka, who both seem like they're going to play. Draymond, who seems like he's going to play. RJ Barrett, really not sure about. He practiced over the weekend. The guys from the Kispert, it seemed like he was going to go. Denny Avdija, Daniel Gafford seemed like they were going to go. All those guys went through shoot-arounds. Other key outs like the long, or more like the long-term guys. I've got them listed in here, but like, Darren Fox, Jamal Murray's out tonight. Devin Vassell's out. We had those over the weekend. So some key information, but we're really waiting on a few questionables. It seems like most of those guys are going to go. The fact that Porzingis popped up during the day makes him seem a little less likely. SGA, I really don't know what to make of. We're just kind of waiting on news on that one. Yeah, Steven, it wouldn't surprise me completely if one of Luka or Kyrie sits either. But right now I've got him in. I don't think there's any way to, you don't want to skew it for one to sit over the other. I would expect Luka to play over Kyrie more often than Kyrie. But that might just be, me liking Luka better. But for right now, we've got them both in. We've got time. Let me pop up to the sim. So I actually just dropped the sim info in here. I haven't really had time to go through it. Just had to take a little time in the afternoon and run over to the dispensary, get all set up with that. And then I got back and just been updating projections and notes and all that since. Got the sim run. So we're going to go through it. Take a little bit of a look. You know what I didn't do was get over to check out the line movement. Let me pull up. Let's pull up some of the totals. So 242 point total between the Hawks and OKC is pretty meaty. 233.5 between the Bucks and the Nets. I can see the Bucks kind of getting up and running away with that one. San Antonio and Indy is at 238. Got a low point of 217.5 in the Sacramento versus the Rockets game. Everybody else is in the 222, 221 to 224 range. So really our high points are San Antonio, Indy, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and then most especially the 1 point spread in a 242 point game between Atlanta and OKC. With some interesting pieces in that game. I'm sure that'll be borne out as we start looking through some of this. Let me close up some windows. Don't need that right now. We do need this. Underdog is always key. That's the other thing with trying to keep up with all the information. At a certain point, if I'm just doing news outside of just providing context for the projection updates, if I'm just trying to keep up with news at a certain point, I'm just kind of transcribing Underdog's Twitter feed, and there's not really that much point in doing that. So, Oh, before we get going, by the way, totally forgot. For one, hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. 13 people here hanging out. I'm sure we'll get a few more coming in, a few more catching up later on. A little while before lock still. But big congrats to our pal Dennis, XX Cubs fan. $100,000 takedown yesterday in the NFL slate. Main slate, the big tournament on FanDuel. Knocked it down, came in second place behind, I forget whether it was McLovin or one of those guys. Cleared him by a 1.5. He was blocked out. They both had Jacobs and CD going down the stretch late. But the big $500 buy-in, the pros tournament. Using the rotoscouts projections, using the rotoscouts article and content. So friend of the site, known the guy for a while. Good dude. Really, really happy for him. Believe that's his second big 100K takedown over time. I think he had one a year or two ago. But sounded like he nice bankroll rebuilder. Going to throw it all into NBA. So hopefully he's out here and going to throw some money into this NBA slate tonight. But big congrats to him. And we had another one dropped in. It was pretty solid little win. We had Ekio, E-K-I-O, Ekio. I don't know your actual whose name that associates to. I'm bad with remembering which handles are associated to which person. So if you're in here, congrats. Nice little first place $1,500 DK takedown on the football slate with a CJ Stroud lineup. So basically everybody who opted for CJ Stroud after we talked about going to the kids, the two rookies that were taking 1 and 2 instead of all the dregs of the draft in all those different value spots. The people who opted for more CJ Stroud did a little better than those of us who had more Bryce Young than CJ Stroud. I had a good day, not a great day. Could have been a great day. A lot of stuff we talked about hit. Bryce Young, unfortunately, did not. He threw more touchdown passes to the opposing team than he did his own teammates. If we had counted those, he would have had a nice day. He would have had about a similar kind of day to CJ Stroud. But yeah, again, congrats to our pal Dennis XX Cubs fan. That's awesome. And more to come, guys. Let's get some going for NBA. Been close. Oh, and that's the other thing. I was one of the people, the many people. Did anybody else in here get tied in that first place? It was a big logjam. It was like 100 lineup tie on first place on FanDuel on the Showdown. So I knocked that down. So we'll be doing Showdown. I'll pop up the projections, I guess, at the end of the show, and I'll just talk it through like real quick at the end of this show for football. But then we'll be around in Discord after NBA locks to talk football if you guys want. Steven Leibowitz sounds like he had some Stroud. Yeah, that was and a best ball. Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of best ball lineups dying on the vine out there. A lot of ones I'm sure picked up nice boosts, but man, there are some lineup disasters out there. Stephen Goad says, good afternoon. I'm currently watching you on my TV and laptop, but not signed in on my TV, so that may account for one missing like. However, your content is definitely worth 2 likes and more. Thanks. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Tuning in stereo. I love it. Hopefully they're at least synced, so that it's not like, one and then the other one, like if you have both TVs on the same channel. My TVs do that. They're like 6 feet apart from this room to the other room. And if I have them both on, say, Red Zone on a Sunday and I go to the fridge from here, I'll hear it from in here, and then I'll hear it out there for whatever reason. I guess this is closer to the splitter by a couple of feet, but it shouldn't be as long a delay as it is. These weird things that happen with electronics. A lot of congrats for Dennis in the chat. Good to see. Look, everybody supports everybody. Everybody's happy for everybody, right? We're all playing against each other to some extent, but we're all pulling for one another out there. And good karma, positive vibrations, and all that good stuff. Positive energy out into the world and so on and so forth. Good boy. And Joker's here to say congratulations and hi, of course. He's very happy. So let's get into this thing. Top options. Let's go by DK. I slid the ROI numbers out of the picture just because it's just easier to talk about the top ones, the win rates, and it essentially reflects the same information. So just save a little space. And why are these guys not coming up? Well, that's unfortunate. Right. I'm not quite sure why those guys aren't coming up in the DK sim. Unless there's just... I might have to rerun that DK sim real quick. Let me see. Let's look at FanDuel first. These guys have zeros. Yeah, it's weird. What? I don't know why I got a lot of guys that were projected didn't come up. I might have screwed up the upload. Bear with me, guys. Let me check that real quick. Let's see if we can run one for DK. It's weird. It's in here. Info is here. I can't imagine that it would be that they just didn't come up in any lineups. These guys are juniors. They're going to be... All right, some of these are name associations. But, like, Kawhi's not. Hang in there, guys. I'm just trying to figure this out on the fly and see what the hell is going on with this these DK results. We can still talk it through by points per dollar, but I like having these sim results. No wonder those ROI numbers were funky. Let me just try and... I'm going to just try and wipe out DK and rerun it real quick. It's going to take half a second to get it set up. everybody's in this file. These guys have 0. Just wipe out this. All right. Save that. Which is good because then I don't have to re-upload the ownership. So here, I know this is ugly on the screen, by the way. I'll just show you guys how the Ace Mine thing goes. All right, so we'll do a new one. We'll just do a different version of the show. All right, this is the Ace Mine Sim tool. You guys have seen it on the results end. Now you're going to see it on the in-action end. So this is, you got your dashboard. All right, so here's the sim I ran. Let's see, actually. Is it just a lookup thing? Yeah, no, they didn't come up. That's really strange. Something I did, I'm sure. Every time I've run into something with this site so far, it's been, oh, I'm an idiot. I left that column blank in my upload. That's why it didn't work. So typically it's my fault, but let's see if we can get this one to work real quick. It's not the NFL though, so that's a bad start. NBA. All right, so we want DraftKings. You can select Classic or Showdown. We're going Classic, going for the 12 gamer, the main slate. You can choose which tournament you want to sim it against. I always just do the main. This one's 20. Oh, maybe that's what I did. I bet that's what I did. I probably did it against this 500. I didn't realize that was up at the top. Hey, Blaine, if you're out there, is there a way that we can make it so that the biggest one is always at the top for idiots like me? Like the largest population contest? Not sure if Blaine's out there or if Chan's out there today. Somebody note that down for the guys. All right, so that's probably what happened. That's why like guys like Kawhi maybe in the 500 lineups that it created just didn't come up. So if we run it against this, I bet you we're fine. All right, so you click into that. You choose the tournament you want to run it against. This is our drag and drop. So I'm going to do that. And whoop, we just drag this guy here. Okay. Just want to make sure those guys... Yeah, so all right. So like there's Kawhi. All right, so those guys are in. Bang over to the next tab. This is where you can drop your lineups. I don't have lineups built, but like say you built a pool of like 5,000 lineups and you wanted to sim it against a 27,000, whatever that pool was. This is where you would drag and drop. Same deal. You drag and drop your lineups. You can click here and it pops open a lineup template so that you have it. You can set it up exactly how it is. In my spreadsheet, I just have an area that has lookups now, where I just take their template every day, drop it in so that I've got exactly how they have the player names, the numbers, and all of that. And I just copy paste it and upload it right back. And it's gotten very, very easy. It's second nature outside of the things that I keep screwing up. It's second nature already. You get over to here. This is where we get our sim, our pool set up. So projection minimum of 9. I like to account for some of the dum-dums out there and when I do these things. So I go down a couple points. I think 6, more reasonable. You know, you just get people asking about, backup centers who are going to get 3 minutes that are completely irrelevant, thinking that they need to go in. So I like including some of those guys into the pool. I like lowering this by a little bit, but I think 49.2 is obviously perfectly fine. And for basketball, we really shouldn't be leaving this much on the table. But again, I want to account for as representative of a pool as I can. I'll leave these alone. You can change the maximum off optimal that it allows for, but that's already a pretty decent chunk. Player variance, players per team are fine. You can add some correlations here, so on and so forth. So I think that's kind of interesting. I haven't played too much with that, just because I rarely have time to go through the individual ones. But you could say, all right, Luka and whatever. You guys get the idea. Picked a bad player. So you can set player and player correlations. But let's just run this thing. Whoops. Let's just run this thing. Always got to remember, you actually have to click run simulation. It doesn't. It's waiting for the job to begin, but it's waiting for me to begin the job. One of my bugaboos with this. This got me the first day. I think I told you guys, I was literally sitting here like, all right, I guess it's loading. It's really waiting for the job to begin, man. This is really taking a while. Not noticing this giant run simulation button right here. And away we go. Trey says, I got to finally sign up. Laptop crashed in class tonight. Tomorrow I got to do it. For, what are we talking about? For this? For Ace Mind? I like Ace Mind. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know. Whatever you're talking about, Trey, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. It does suck that your laptop died and you had to spend money on a new computer, but it sounded like you were saying an 8-year run out of that original one. That's not bad. So I just built out the pool. That's what I love about this. I've said it before, especially with basketball, where I really don't care about who's in the lineup as long as it's highly projected and then rates out well. I'm not looking for really quarterback combinations, quarterback +1, quarterback +2s with a run back and so on and, yada, yada. I'm really just looking for a pool of top end lineups. And the fact that this can build 27,450 lineups to represent a complete field in, 30 seconds is killer. And then you can run this, if you run this 3 times, take the results. You're running separate sims, so they're not simming against the full pool of 90,000 lineups, but you can get 90,000 unique lineups and sort those by the ROI that, each of the other ones came together against. Sometimes you can get a little bit too concentrated if you do things that way, so it's important to keep an eye on that, keep an eye on your overexposures when you do that. But you can get tons and tons of lineups this quickly. And now we're out to, there's our 50,000, so it simulated 50,000 times a pool of the exact contest size. We'll see what in less than 80 seconds. So here's our results. Hopefully everybody's here. We'll pop it back into this other sheet, and we will move along. We're already behind schedule. I was going to try and make this one quick. No such luck. All right, let's make sure this works. So that was Ace Mind. It's that easy. And outside of a few of the guys with juniors and so on that I really have to get around to fixing, we're fine. I think we're good there. I can get around half of that. Junior. Replace 10 of those. I think there's a 4th in there. 2 of those. I think there's a senior in there. Nope. All right. Let's flip back to this one. All right, and we're back. So we're currently sorted by FanDuel. Let's flip back over. We'll sort by DraftKings. These guys all have naming issues. Bagley, Looney, Peyton. These are all... I don't know how relevant any of these guys are going to be. But nothing like watching somebody update their spreadsheets, right? Peyton. Ivy. I don't know why Looney isn't in there. Ivy and Lively. Cool. No wonder that didn't click into my brain. Jaden Ivy. Not playing? Didn't come up. Why didn't he come up? Does he have a name? I know he's got a name, but does he have like a junior or something on DraftKings? I might have missed that one when I did the upload. I don't think he's going to be... Nope, he's just not coming up. Weird. All right. Got to figure out why he's not translating into the lookup for. Looks like it's the same thing for Derek Lively. Strange. All right, so those two guys aren't coming up. We're just going to ignore them. Problem solved. So your top overall winners on DK, that Magic team back in the mix. Goga getting a big chunk of minutes. Jump back over to last time out Goga went for 26. Put up 40 fantasy FanDuel points. That's a pretty big number. Even at 30, he's at a 6.35 point per dollar mark for 4,700 on the DraftKings slate. He's coming up a massive amount of the time as a winner on the FanDuel slate as well. Kind of the go-to center of the day for value. Seems like a clear-cut, easy pick. Good chalk. Makes a ton of sense off the top. Jalen Suggs picking up a bunch of time there. No Markelle Fultz, so you get value throughout with that Orlando rotation. No Wendell Carter either, so you get Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero picking up a little bit of value. Cole Anthony is a moderate value from Orlando. He's a little further down the board there. Even Joey Ingles, not really a projection. Handful of minutes for 3,600, but not really much of a projection. But kind of just landing in the mix because he's so cheap. If he happens to do anything, that could be a weird little slate bender. But yeah, Orlando's going to be definitely in the mix again, and they'll continue to be as long as they stay these prices and don't get and continue to have guys out. Mixed into that, I've still got a couple extra minutes on Torrey Craig. He slid into that starting lineup with Patrick Williams going back. So that's been the last two games the way they've attacked it. It's only a matter of a couple of minutes, but it's kind of relevant. So I'm curious to see, like, if this drops to like 18 minutes, he's really not going to be relevant, or 18 points, he's really not going to be relevant at all. It's just the fact that he's over 20 for 3,900, 3,500. So going to definitely one of the pieces, oddly, to keep an eye on is what that Bulls starting lineup is going to look like. DeRozan and Levine both showing value from that one, from that same Bulls lineup in that Utah game. Freddie VanVleet, much more on DK because he's 7,500 over there, 8,100 on FanDuel, just kind of an also-ran type guy. But a nice piece of point per dollar value on DK. Played 36 minutes the last time out, put up 50 FanDuel points. Playing 37 minutes a night, got him projected at 36. And he's clearing just about 40 DK points. It's a big slate. There's a lot of pieces here. Al Horford in a points per dollar sense showing some value, but coming up 13% of the time in winners on DraftKings, 9% of the time in top 1 percenters. A lot less so on FanDuel. 4,900 is probably a factor of the single position center, and he's only center eligible on FanDuel, where you get him at power forward, center, and util on DraftKings. A lot more mobility, a lot more flexibility for Al Horford. Probably stepping into significant minutes again. Last time out, played 30 minutes. That was without Derek White. Derek White's out for, I believe it's the birth of his kid, second kid, if I remember the tweet that I read correctly. So Horford stepped into the starting lineup and played 30. Put up a modest 26 FanDuel points. Got him projected at 29. Roughly around a point per minute. He's a .88 player so far this year. I'm comfy with Al Horford getting around this kind of a projection. Maybe it's a slightly high number. But I think if he plays 30 minutes, we've got a reasonable shot at that. Gives him a decent amount of value on DK where you can move him around the board for cheap. Wemby, 52 FanDuel points in 37.9 minutes the other night. Capable of amazing things on the basketball court at any given time. Officially have given his numbers a different kind of a nudge than I had given him originally. Just trying to find a comp for him is extremely difficult. But I think we're on another night where he could definitely show some value. Power forward and center on FanDuel, 35% of the time in the top ones. 15-ish, a little bit more modest on DK for 85 for the same price, power forward and center. But a definitely playable part on DraftKings and looks pretty relevant on the FanDuel slate. Joel Embiid, just kind of an is Joel Embiid kind of a number. A little bit more interesting on DraftKings where he's only 11.2 versus the 12,000 on FanDuel. We'll get into some of the position by position of it. Why don't we just, I'm going to just start doing this by the way I've been doing forward. I'm just going to do guards, forwards. That still gets the small forwards into the mix, though. It's so annoying. I got to universalize some of these positions. I'm going to try and do guards. Let's talk it through this way because there's so many guys that are point guard and shooting guard across both sites. And then a bunch that are shooting guard, small forward. It's also warm. I'm going to take off this hoodie. I don't know why I left it on. It's that kind of show. Super chat your dollars. Now my arms are stuck in these sleeves. Freedom. Mamba's here. What's up, Mamba? You missed a lot of nonsense with me rerunning a sim and updating the spreadsheet. NFL lineup alert. Cardinals Kyler, easy for me to say. Kyler Murray expected to start on Sunday versus the Falcons. They saw what Joshua Dobbs did with no preparation against the Falcons. They said, we can do that too. Just opening stuff. Yeah, just opening stuff up. And we were congratulating our pal, XX Cubs fan, on his 100K victory. NFL main slate victory, 100K yesterday. Technically his second place, but who's counting? Awesome performance by him. And now we're just kind of getting into it. So looking at the guards across the slate. Collectively, Jalen Suggs, top of the board by DK win rate. Massive numbers on both sites. 4.7 by points per dollar on FanDuel. Definitely more valuable on DraftKings for 51. Point guard and shooting guard on both sites. Little multi-position eligibility. Relevant on FanDuel. Hyper relevant on DraftKings. 1.02 FanDuel points per minute on the season. 0.98 DraftKings points per minute on the season. And just a little bit more to do, given the state of that rotation right now. Freddie VanVleet, 36 minutes. Again, this is where your not even ceiling is, but this is where a high-end game, a standard deviation and a half kind of a game from Freddie VanVleet. Upside beyond this in his 36 minutes, totally reasonable. 7,500 is very cheap for Fred VanVleet on the DraftKings slate. 81, a little bit more reasonable on FanDuel. A little bit more limited on FanDuel, running away quarter of the time in the top lineups over on DraftKings, 1.03 DraftKings points per minute. And we know that VanVleet's capable of staying out there for 40 and just, racking up shots. Tyrese in 34 minutes, showing a decent amount of value, 12% of the time in winners on FanDuel, 4.86 by points per dollar isn't bad. Again, another guy more relevant on DraftKings. Point guard only over there. But 9,400, not that crazy expensive for his talents, for his production. 1.54 DraftKings points per minute so far this year. Pretty massive. 36.7 minutes a game, or minutes last time out, put up 63 FanDuel points. 33 minutes a night in 5 games. At a 34-minute projection, he's landing at this level. If he plays, obviously, if he puts up this, we're talking about better than that. But if he plays this kind of, 37-ish minutes, stack up another 4.5 points on top of that, put him into the 50s. It's not bad. Maxey could definitely be interesting. 1.16 FanDuel points per minute, 1.20 DraftKings points per minute so far. Mid-teens in the point guard position, 8.3 on DraftKings, 8.6 on FanDuel, point guard only. Out of the point guard only guys, Halliburton and Maxey belong in a lot of lineups if you were just restricted to that. Freddie VanVleet, more so on DraftKings. You get a little bit of value out of Dyson Daniels potentially. Throwing him 28 minutes. CJ McCollum out with a collapsed lung. Going to be out for a while. His second one too. I didn't specifically remember that when I read it, but second collapsed lung for CJ McCollum. I don't know if it's some kind of condition that he's got or what it is that causes his lung to deflate. Like, did he get like hit or something? Like, how does that happen? Anybody know? I don't. But it sounds like he's going to be out for like 6 weeks. That's what he was out for the last time. So we're going to get some interesting condensed minutes here. I think Dyson Daniels benefits. Not that he's at a massive projection by any means. We're at a sub 20 projection, but an okay point per dollar mark, landing in the FanDuel top lineups about 10% of the time. For 4,400 on DraftKings, point guard and shooting guard, little bit more relevant. It gains a half a point there, a third of a point, 4.59 on the points per dollar scale, but lands in the top lineups a little bit more. That guard value is a little bit more valuable on DraftKings. But a lot of guys are in that mix too. You could also call a lot of these guys just kind of even. 4,100 for, who's that? Malachi Branham. 4,500 for Bogdan. 4,400 for Dyson Daniels. A lot of same 0.82, 0.88, 0.88 type guys. Where they do differentiate though is if you're paying 44 for a 0.88 guy versus 64 for a 0.80 guy in Jalen Green, it might be beneficial. Got to have their minutes even out a little bit. Right now we've got it at 28-34. But if it goes, let's say Jalen goes 32 and Dyson Daniels happens to play 30, that gets a lot closer. Ingram, I'm assuming full go. Not really worried about anything there. Small forward only on the FanDuel board, but small forward and shooting guard on DraftKings makes him interesting. Landing in top lineups 11% of the time, 1.09 DraftKings points per minute. Some of his rates should take a little bit of a step forward with no CJ out there. Give him some definite nudges in the usage board. A little bit of a nudge in what else went up? I would imagine. Trying to think of what I did. Well, multiple things changed for Ingram today. Minor tweaks. I gave everybody little minor nudges, trying to account for different situations, trying to account for what this season looks like. I haven't updated the full back end to like completely convert to 2023-24 numbers. The back end still is informed by primarily history, but there's components of it that are reflective more of this year, and I'm trying to give those the nudges so that it all translates through to some sort of an accurate blend of like, this is who this guy is, but this is who this guy is in the situation he's in right now. And we're still kind of figuring that out, 5-6 games into the season, 7 games into the season for some of these guys. I nudged the assist rate a little bit. I think I left rebounding alone. Usage, I might have left it alone in the end. I don't remember whether I nudged it up or not. It really is inconsequential to any of the stuff we're talking about here. It is what it is on the board there. But I do think there's a little bit of an opportunity increase for Ingram. Obviously, the minutes are the minutes. He played 33 on average, 31 last time out. Just gave us 30.9 FanDuel points. Ingram is definitely capable of giving us that kind of game over and over again in this situation. One of the more reliable floor, but unreliable ceiling type guys, I would say. Should be a better term for that. Jalen Brunson, 56 FanDuel points in 41 minutes the last time out. I'm giving him a 37-minute projection tonight. Looks pretty good in a points per dollar sense. 18% of the time in top FanDuel lineups. Half that in top DraftKings lineups. You fortunate souls over on DraftKings. He's 8,400 over there against the lower cap. So just relative value is much stronger on FanDuel. I don't love the Knicks against this Clippers team. I don't love anything about what's going on with the team right now between RJ being banged up, maybe not playing again, Julius Randle being the worst shooter in the history of the NBA over 6 games. It's not good. But as usual, Jalen Brunson's been the bright spot. So there is a little bit of that going on. 1.04 FanDuel points per minute, 1.09 DraftKings points per minute so far on the season. Downboard guys, not a ton. Like Luka's all the way down here when it comes to sim results. You can book just 60 points of raw scoring anytime you want. There's nothing wrong with going to Luka. just not rating out great right now, just based on where some of the other stuff falls. That could certainly go up over the next little bit as more value opens up. There should be some spots where we'll get a little bit of value, so that price won't be as problematic. And it's not a bad price for Luka, by the way. 12 for 20. 12 for 1.66 DraftKings points per minute is not bad. 1.56 FanDuel points per minute for 12.5. Not bad. 4.70 points per dollar on FanDuel, 5.03 on DraftKings. That's why he's coming up a little bit more frequently in the top lineups on DraftKings. But anytime you can get to Luka, the problem with Luka is he can give you 50, like he did in 36.4 minutes the last time out, and that's kind of a clunker performance. That kind of tanks your $12,000 salary slot. So you really do need him to get like at least this median. If you can book his median score a lot of the time as a lineup spot, you're okay at least. But if you get that, 10 points off the median game, despite it looking like a good score, and for the most part, against the cash, it's not really great. Jaylen Brown's down here, buried. Kobe White's down here, finally where he belongs, not coming up in our lives. 2.5% of the time on DraftKings, 4.5% on FanDuel. Jaylen's another player that, perfectly fine to go to Jaylen Brown. He's 5% of the time in the top lineups on FanDuel, 2.5% over on DraftKings. 7,900 for a shooting guard small forward, 78 for shooting guard small forward on FanDuel. Another guy with a high ceiling, excellent player. Just a excellent, amazing rotation that's very deep. Everybody needs a little bit. So there's a little bit of a haircut on the overall ceiling for most of those guys. And then any one of them can hit it any given night. I think that they're just each going to hit it less consistently than they have in the past, I guess is the best way to say that. But if you're just looking to slot in a $7,800 small forward as your last guy, I've got that money. I've built a great lineup. It projects well. There's nothing wrong with going to Jaylen Brown in that spot. If you have exactly that 7,900 on DraftKings for his 4.77, you could spend less on some of these guys and be right in the same territory. Can't use yeah, you can if it's at the shooting guard spot. DeJounte, 39-point projection. So that's like a similar-ish option. There's nothing wrong with DeJounte either. You can't afford most of these guys, or you're leaving way too much salary on the table if we're in that situation where you're just like, everything is perfect. I've got this much money to spend. 83, like he's really the only guy right in that range. You could presumably leave the 200 and go to like Zach LaVine, but LaVine would be more popular. But like raw scoring potential, some of this is just influenced by minor point differentiation between the two projections and minor salary differentiation. It can create a big uptick in some of these win rates. So there is the raw nature of the projection and the player to take into account with some of this. You don't want to let that creep into around the edges too much. The probabilities are by far the thing that matters most. But in that last man in type situation, or last two guys, or who are two guys I can pivot to from the most commonly selected, most highly optimal guys like Jaylen are on that list. Guys like DeJounte Murray are on that list. Hopefully that makes sense as we talk about a lot of these. I know you guys have done this before, so I'm hopefully just preaching to the choir. Let's resort by FanDuel win rates real quick. Did you hear it? I think I slid into win weights real quick. Win weights with Bob Walters. Shouldn't make fun of people in the way they talk, but I think Barbara's long dead, and I'm not the first to do that impression. And I didn't mean to accidentally slip into it as I was saying win rates. Reggie, top of the board. Oh, that's weird. I didn't realize Reggie was 5,500. No wonder he didn't come up when we were talking by DraftKings win rates. 4,200 on FanDuel. Wildly different play. No Jamal. Fully expecting Reggie to get a bunch of minutes. I've got him at 31. Let's see what the most recent projection across town was. I haven't seen any confirmation that he's starting, but that's my assumption. Angels extend $20 million qualifying offer to Shohei Ohtani. Enjoy your compensation picks, Los Angeles. Jonathan Isaac ruled out for Orlando, right? Yeah. Magical start, Black, Suggs, Franz Wagner, Boncaro, and Goga. So Anthony Black picking up some minutes in that Orlando rotation. I had Black at a decent projection, I thought. Yeah, I got him at 28 minutes. Not really giving us much. 1.01 FanDuel points per minute so far in 13 minutes a game. But joining that starting rotation, I think probably has a negative impact on his per minute rate. I'll take another look at it just to make sure we've got this in line, but I can't imagine we're going to take such a leap. I'm not going to change his minutes. I think the minutes probably stay right there where they are. I'll double check the rates, but I wouldn't expect much of a leap from here, and it wouldn't be enough of a leap to make him at all relevant beyond where he is right now, 1.5 points of relevance in top lineups on DraftKings for 4,300. He's more relevant over there, but these are also ran numbers with a lot of guys. I don't know that you need to dip down to that level. 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. I'll give him, like I said, I'll give him another look in the later updates, but probably not going to be critical. Reggie, though, potentially critical on FanDuel. A lot less so on DK. Chat's quiet today. 23 people hanging out. 24. Another one just jumped in. Don't know who it was. Surprise me. Say hi. Maybe it's who would be the most surprising person on a basketball show. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley would surprise me. Tom Kennedy would surprise me. Say hi, Tom, if you're out there. Let's see what they've got in. There he is, Denver. I love this slate, by the way. 12 games, 11 of them starting between 7 and 8 o'clock, and then just the 9 o'clock game, New Orleans, Denver, as the late night hammer, so to speak. Love it. Yeah, they got Reggie for 31 minutes over at RG, so I'm he got the same. I thought I had him at 32. Assuming that he starts, that's a nice chunk of value on the FanDuel slate. 0.87 FanDuel points per minute and 21.5 minutes per game so far this season. Just giving him a 25-point projection. So, I mean, kind of in line with his just current who he is. Becomes very, very relevant. Point guard only. Crosstown, 5,500, just doesn't look really relevant. He could easily hit the board at that price. But the amount of times he does it are a lot fewer and further between against the lower cap for the much higher salary. Interesting situation. Clay's also in that bucket. 5,400 for Klay Thompson on FanDuel. Thank you. I will take some shares of Klay against Detroit. 32-minute projection. 0.79 FanDuel points per minute so far this season. I know that Klay Thompson's better than that, but even if I'm at 0.79 for 5,400, I'm not that far off value. Right, we've got I'm at 32. So that's, if he's exactly that 0.79, he gives us 25.2 FanDuel points. That's not ideal, but we know that Klay Thompson, a few shots drop, and Klay's got a much better score than that. And I'm not even talking about the outlier games. I'm just talking about a guy who's got, I think this is a realistic median projection for Klay Thompson, and that's well in the range of value. So I like Klay. I like the price. Very different at 6,900 on DraftKings, despite the multi-position eligibility. Just doesn't really matter. 1.3% of the time in optimals. Buddy Hield, not uninteresting. Another guy, same story, just cheaper. 53 for Buddy. It's a 26-minute projection. He's a 1.04 FanDuel point per minute player so far this year. Same amount of time last time out. He gave us 33.2. 12-game slate, you might need a little bit more than that spot by spot, but he's got a little bit of upside beyond that. 6,200, just a lot less relevant over on DraftKings. A lot of these guys are sames. Anybody else that we didn't touch on DraftKings? D'Anthony Melton, Malik Monk, both showing good mid-range value on FanDuel that they didn't have on DraftKings. Similar pricing, 52 versus 53 for D'Anthony Melton. Point guard, shooting guard, just picks up a little bit of value on FanDuel. Cade, way more valuable on FanDuel. 500 less. across sites. He's a .99 FanDuel point per minute player so far this season. Last time out, 35 points in 38 minutes. A little bit light, but upside for more. Projected at better than a point per minute on the FanDuel scale in 36 minutes. Landing in 13% of the top ones on FanDuel. I like that. KCP I don't love, but he's only 4,500. Definitely landing somewhat relevant. Maxey, clear upside for a ceiling score. He was relevant on DraftKings as well. Hallie we talked about. Jalen we talked about. Trae Young, another one of those guys, just if you get to shares of Trae Young at 8,800, you're not complaining about it. 5+ in the points per dollar scale. Landing in top lineups, 8 to 10% of the time. Totally fine with getting Trae Young for 8,800 on FanDuel. 93 on DK, a little bit more limiting, less than 5% in top lineups, but easily worth getting to. 1.20 DraftKings points per minute. If you've got the 9,300 in an open point guard spot, I've got a Trae Young to sell you. No issues with it. Clarkson, thought he'd be more relevant than this, actually, when I kicked the Sims off. 6,200. Got him at 32 minutes, 27-point projection. Last time out, 32 minutes, put up 18. That's painful. 0.82 FanDuel points per minute so far, 0.88 DraftKings points per minute. Different scale across sites. Yeah, Clarkson a lot more relevant on DraftKings for 6. Point guard, shooting guard, 19% of the time in top ones, 16% of the time in winners. A lot more relevant over there. But not, I was expecting 20+ out of Clarkson across sites, so that's interesting. I don't think we're off. What do they have him 32. All right. I'm 2 minutes short of what RG has him at. If I give him another 2, that would probably nudge him up a decent amount more. I know you guys can't say this. I go 2 more to Clarkson. And then I just take him away from Fontecchio. There's just minutes kind of sitting there. So that would push Clarkson to another. I'm pretty confident he would go into the 21-22 range in winner in top ones, and slightly less, like same difference between the two on DraftKings. Call it like 22-20, 22-19, something like that. On FanDuel, probably we crest over 15 for the top ones, maybe 10 to 12 on winners. He picks up 2 and change points basically. A stronger option if I give him the additional 2 minutes. That'll be a weird little. It's amazing how when you're doing these minutes and the rates for NBA, minor changes can make a pretty dramatic difference in how some of these results come together. Trey's bailing. All right, Trey. You were here for guards. See you, buddy. I appreciate you swinging by, and good luck tonight. Stephen Goad. Stephen Goad's still here, taking all this great info. Appreciate it. Aloysius is here. What's going on? I'm sure people are jumping in and out. DFS Geeks, what's going on? Hi. Welcome. So let's roll over to the forward spots. I think we talked through a bunch of these guys. Downboard, again, you get some rough points per dollar numbers on guys like Luka, but totally fine to go to. Anthony Edwards certainly falls into that bucket. Anytime you're getting any of these star caliber guys, it's just they're low win rates, but you just book the spots. You can take the raw scoring, take the ceiling that we know is present on any of these Kyrie type guys. Josh Giddey will see an uptick if SGA doesn't go. Right now I've got him at just 30 minutes, just kind of laying flat. It's a 30-point projection. He'll definitely climb if SGA doesn't go. But he came back down to earth once that news changed. Yeah, and then everybody down this way is just Not the most relevant guys in the world. James Harden, I'm giving him 28. Reasonable projection, but for 8,900 and with a lot of uncertainty, sub 4 points per dollar on FanDuel, just over 4 on DraftKings at 8,800, sub 1% across Sims on both sites. Think it's a no thank you day for James Harden? He'll have his days, but I don't know that today's one of them. J-Rich, good point per dollar mark, but not really coming up in the Sims for whatever reason. Maybe just a lot of positional blockers, I'm not sure. There were quite a few guys up here. Like if you just, at a certain point, you just run out of lineup spots, right? So this just gets occupied. Just those highlighted guys amounts to 638.76%. So at a certain point, you just run out of spots for guys like J-Rich. But he looks all right for the money. Let's keep this going, though. This will be a big mixed bag positionally because it's going to have some forwards in it. It's going to have some centers in it, like 2 center-only guys on FanDuel. Going by DK win rates. Torrey Craig, again, if Torrey Craig's in the starting lineup, again, he's not uninteresting for 35. Doesn't need to do a whole hell of a lot to pay that off. This is a 21-point projection, and he's landing in the top lineups 25% of the time. On FanDuel, it's a little bit less. For 39, he's a small forward over there only versus a power forward on DK. Probably a little bit more value in getting him at the power forward spot. Then the Orlando big men. Franz and Moncaro both look very good on both sites. 73-71 for Franz. 20% of the time in winners on DraftKings. 30+% on FanDuel. Paolo approaching 40% in winners and top ones on FanDuel. 5.4 in the points per dollar model. That's an excellent buy. 1.14 FanDuel points per minute for that price is great. Plenty of opportunity with Wendell still ailing. 50.4 FanDuel points in 34 minutes the last time out. Has ceiling a little bit beyond that even. I like that option a lot. 20% of the time in DK lineups. DeRozan and Levine, we're just pairing guys up from these teams. But DeRozan and Levine, easily much safer players and much more reliable for around these median projections than a guy like Torrey Craig is to hit any kind of a ceiling. But in a points per dollar sense, Craig is slightly more valuable, again, if he's getting 27, 28-ish minutes as a starter. A lot less so in 21 minutes as a reserve. But DeRozan, 1.04 FanDuel points per minute, 1.02 on the DraftKings scale. Levine, a little bit less so far, but we know who these guys are. Totally secure in these projections and the rates at which they're coming up. I feel like it's a one or the other one situation. I don't know how many lineups I want them both. You can absolutely get there with them both. It's not a blocker by any means. Just feels a little bit like two guys that are doing somewhat similar things out there. Nas saw a little 25-point projection for 5,500 on FanDuel, center and power forward eligible. 4,700 on DraftKings. DraftKings got him really relevant. 18% of the time. 5.34 on the points per dollar scale. Last time out, just 22.5 points in 22 minutes. Got him for the same 22 minutes tonight. So 1.01 FanDuel point per minute player this year. 1.06 DraftKings points per minute. But we know there's a little bit of bounce there as well. And if he stumbles into a few additional minutes, we can obviously hit a little bit of a ceiling there. For the price, it's not so bad over here. Bogdan we touched on before in the guards. Slow-mo, I never love when he's relevant. Fortunately, he's really not on FanDuel. A lot more relevant on DraftKings, 4,500. You get him at both forward spots over there. For 56 on FanDuel, we can fortunately avoid him. He's a .91 DraftKings points per minute player. 26-minute projections got him at like 22 points. He'll have those games where he crests into the 30s, and you'll kind of need him when he's at these prices. 5 plus. Anytime we're 5 plus in the points per dollar, we're trending okay. Still nobody's favorite player to go to. Not a great matchup either against Boston. I don't love that spot. That whole game just feels a little slow and draggy to me. A little defensively oriented. What's the I know I pulled this up at the top of the show, but I already forgot it. What's the game total? There they are. 221.5. One of the lower marks on the board. Boston only 2.5 point favorites. I have trouble with that. I know Minnesota's not bad, but Minnesota 9.5 net rating. Boston an 18-1. Essentially double the net rating. Well, that's an interesting point spread in this game. But just the fact that it's that low a total and just kind of some trends for that to go defense. I just don't love that spot. Same with like Horford. Fortunately, 4,900. Center only on FanDuel, just not coming up that much. I know I mentioned him at the top. A little bit more relevant again, probably because of the multi-positions on DraftKings and the util spot, of course. 4,800, he's a 6+ in the points per dollar. That makes him that 6.23 is probably our highest points per dollar mark on the DraftKings forwards board anyway. I don't know about all the centers. But on this list, that's the highest mark. For 48, if he gives us 30 minutes again, last time out he played 30, 26.9 FanDuel points. That's not perfect. 0.88 FanDuel points per minute this season, 0.88 DraftKings points. Has been well above that over time. Let me pull up Wowie. Let's give him a quick look from last year. I know I threatened to put this back on the board, but I haven't yet. If I keep that, I might do that. If I keep that ROI square off of there, I can pop the last year's points per minute back up again and make it easier. No Derek White. This is also, I forgot I got to account for all the changes if I'm looking at last year with Boston in that front court. Luka and Kyrie both in. All right, so in roughly this situation last year, it was right about the same. 0.86 DraftKings, 0.89 FanDuel. Might need to give Al a little bit of a haircut. 30 minutes. It's not incorrect. It's close. But given who he's going up against, too, it might need a little look. Wemby, 35% of the time on FanDuel. Yes, please. Power forward and center. Like the Wemby spot quite a bit. Obviously, we've got a monster ceiling. I don't think we've seen anywhere near the ceiling yet. And he's given us 1.37 FanDuel points per minute. And he still only cost 8,500. I feel like we're in a get a Wemby when he's cheap situation. I feel like this is a player we're going to be looking at high 9s into the 10s in another 2 weeks. Just there really is no ceiling on this kid once we really get going. Right now, he's just, he's excellent, and there's limitless potential. So 85 feels cheap. I think we take advantage now. On DraftKings, he's a little bit less relevant for the same price. You can still definitely go there. 15% of the time in top ones, 12% of the time in winners. Easy enough to get, especially at multi-positions, power forward and center, plus the util. Plenty of use for Wemby today. Jalen Johnson, 5,600, playing relevant minutes, 28 on this slate. Played roughly 30 last time out, 35.7 FanDuel points, giving us 1.05 DraftKings points per minute. Not irrelevant, 11% of the time in winners. Cross on FanDuel, small forward and power forward, 13% of the time in top ones. Dylan Brooks, Shooting guard, small forward, 15% of the time, roughly. Call it 13% of the time just because I don't love going to Dillon Brooks most of the time unless he's really got a crazy roll increase. 0.85 DraftKings points per minute so far this season. Giving him 35 minutes full run, 35 minutes last time out, gave us 38 FanDuel points. Is who he is. You can always play, or not always, but I mean when he's getting full run, you can always, you can frequently go to the Dillon Brooks option, but you're just relying on those hot games. Cat, moderately relevant on both sites, single digits, but higher single digits. Power forward and center, 8,100 on DraftKings, 82 on FanDuel, 1.14 FanDuel points, 1.13 DraftKings points per minute. Going to have to be a relevant part if they're going to hang with Boston. Again, I just don't love that total. I don't love that matchup for anybody, really. Keegan Murray picking up way more value on FanDuel at 6,500 than he is on DraftKings for the same price. He's small forward and power forward on FanDuel 25% of the time in top lineups. At 65, power forward only, not really all that relevant. 5% of the time, playable, but not, not must have. No real crazy must have guys down board here. 52-point projection. That's Giannis again. Oh, that was Luka that we talked about before. So Giannis, kind of a similar spot to Luka on the board. We're just, even at 10-6, Giannis has kind of come down. His points per minute isn't what it once was. 1.27 FanDuel, 1.30 DraftKings points per minute right now. Does it crest back up? Does it stay around here because he's playing with Dame now? We'll see. I'm not entirely sure where this goes. I've got him at 33 minutes also. He played 35.8, roughly 36 last time out, gave us 36.6 FanDuel points. I just don't love where we are with Giannis right now. I don't mind that price, though. Like this time last year, if you told me Giannis for 10-3 on FanDuel, I'd be rushing to click it, I think. It's just given who he is, who he's been right now, it's not really smashing through the top of the board. That said, an easy click for raw scoring still at those prices. Harrison Barnes more relevant on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Same story with Buddy. Everybody over here just single digits. Clay we talked about before. He's shooting guard only on FanDuel. A lot more relevant over there. Beantown, yeah. I mean, you can see how it depends, right? Some of it depends on position and available options especially once we get into center options and especially on FanDuel. But yeah, you can see the impact that those salaries have on guys like Giannis, even at 10-3 with a limited projection, or like Luka was. I know you weren't here before. Luka at 12 with a full projection. I'm giving Luka a 60-point DraftKings point projection, and he's coming up less than 5% of the time in winners just because of the impact downstream that salary has. So yeah, it's just by nature of fitting the big clunky item into the suitcase. I can fit a fire extinguisher into my suitcase, but it's not going to let me fit a lot of other stuff in there. And then when I get to the hotel, there might be 5 fire extinguishers on my floor just like it. So it's probably better to pack my flip-flops and my travel-sized toothbrush. It's just kind of the nature of how these slates go. A lot of options on a 12-gamer. So yeah, good question. Jump back to forwards real quick. Let's just resort by FanDuel. Take a last quick look here. 541, we're good. Take a last look at forwards, then we'll open up center. Then we'll jump back over to Ace Mine real quick, and we'll look at those lineups and just the nature of how they look, and then we'll get out of here, start building some basketball lineups and updating and building football lineups and so on and so forth. It's really a frantic marathon on these days where we've got a basketball slate and a football showdown slate an hour later. Guys that were relevant, crazy relevant. Again, Clay, but he's shooting guard only. Not that that's not a reason to play him. I'm just saying we talked about him already because he's shooting guard only. Just coming up against the forwards here. Wemby we talked about. Franz. Aaron Gordon, I just continue getting a decent amount of Aaron Gordon. 30 minutes last time out, 34.7 FanDuel points. 6,000 on the FanDuel slate. at power forward only, giving you a 5.5 in the points per dollar scale. Might have him a little slightly over projected, but not necessarily. 1.04 FanDuel points per minute right now in a 31-minute projection. And I feel like it is a situation where Aaron Gordon's doing Aaron Gordon things. So I think we're basically dialed in. And in a game with no Jamal Murray, a guy who's a capable passer like Aaron Gordon as a big man, could see a little bit of an uptick in his assist rate. So this could actually potentially be a little bit higher. I didn't adjust anything when it comes to the assist rate for Aaron Gordon. So not a bad spot for Gordon. I like the player. I think I read this the wrong way around too, by the way. He played 34.7 minutes the last time out and put up 42.9 FanDuel points. I think I said 30 and 34.7. Got to remember where these columns are. So, I mean, 42 FanDuel points in 34 minutes from a $6,000 power forward. It's kind of just a easy square to click. I don't mind that at all. Buddy, Harrison Barnes, DDR, Keegan, Zach LaVine. We've talked about most of these guys. Kawhi, 8,200 for Kawhi. Not bad. 86 on DraftKings. I don't want to say unplayable, but not a good play. 4.6 points per dollar, 0.58% of the time in top ones. But on FanDuel, against the higher cap for a lot less money at both positions, both forward spots, that's relevant. 12.9% of the time in top ones. Jimmy Butler, pretty similar situation. 8,400 on FanDuel versus 83 on DK. 3% of the time in top lineups on DK, 16% on FanDuel. DFS, 5,100 versus 53. Another guy, similar situation. He's got 33 minutes. Seeing a decent amount of run. 36.8 minutes last time out. Put up 25.1 FanDuel points because he's Dorian Finney-Smith. That's about all he does. So it's not a great play. It's not a great ceiling score. But for 51, you're just buying other spots. Right? A lot of these times, you need him to get a little bit better than his median, which 25.1 that he put up the last time, that's still probably not enough. But get me 30 for 51, 28, 29 even. And with the difference there, a lot of the time, I'm buying back those, whatever that delta is and more by getting that player upgrade in the other spot. So it's worthwhile and it works out. That's why he comes up 15% of the time in winners. Not because he's hitting 60-point games, but because him doing just enough creates a situation where other guys are capable of landing in your lineup and giving you the 60-point game now. Zion, MPJ, relevant. Not crazy must-haves, but definitely relevant 10% of the time for Zion. Roughly the same for MPJ. Julius, 7,800. How low can his price go before we start buying again? I'll probably have a little, 10% of the time. Eventually the shot's going to fall. I mean, 37% true shooting percentage for the season. That's not going to be the situation all year. As inconsistent and as frustrating as Julius Randle can be, he's not that bad. Cat, Draymond, playable. Jalen Williams, another guy that's been relevant lately, but not really crashing through value today. Single digits on both sites in the sim. 6,700 on DraftKings at power forward. 7,000 on the FanDuel slate. 34 minutes, but with the return of SGA, a little bit of a usage haircut. Definitely a downgraded opportunity. Still a decent projection, but on the points per dollar scale with his salary up a little bit and the points down slightly, makes a big difference. Giannis, we talked. Horford, we talked. LeBron, another guy, just pricey. Pricey but good. Pricey but good. Larry Markkinen, pricey but mid-range. Really liked Lowry the other day, and then today, at just a slightly different price, he really kind of falls by the wayside against a pretty large amount of competition. Royce O'Neal not really popping up, even in 28 minutes. He's been another guy that's been hitting the board a little bit lately for just some cheapo relevance, but not today. Keldon, questionable. Not really relevant anyway. Nobody else really crazy on this board. Last spot, centers. Obviously, we've got the big meatball here in Goga. In the starting lineup, confirmed. Got him at 28 minutes right now. Last time out, he played 25.9. Even in 25.9, he put up a 40 fantasy point score. got out to a good start, then was quiet for, I don't know if he was just sitting for an extended stretch or whether he just had a quiet couple of minutes. But all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, this is going to be one of those trappy spots where it looked like a great play and then just came roaring back to life, and pretty solid little FanDuel score there. So not a bad play on the DraftKings slate, 30% of the time in top lineups, 30% of the time in winners. Same story on FanDuel, 6+ on both sites, points per dollar. Just easily the top raw points per dollar play of the day, and hyper relevant in Sims. I don't think he's easily avoided. I like it better where you can play him alongside some of the other big men on the DraftKings slate. Just the nature of FanDuel. You do have a lot of guys with power forward eligibility, which is good. But it is kind of limiting in that you don't get Embiid if you go to Goga. To a lesser extent, your Cats and your Capellas and your Vuces and your certainly Jokic's of the world. You can get some bonus. You can get, I guess you can get Cat. You can get some bonus. You can get Cat. But it's kind of limiting. You can get AD. Can't have Şengün. So, but just clear returns, it's pretty obvious. He's very relevant. Nas next man up. Again, just kind of cheap. Good results on DraftKings for points per dollar at 4,700. A lot less relevant. You can see the different impact at 5,500 for the same guy, same projections. Jalen, not really that relevant on FanDuel, but coming up 17% of the time on DraftKings, where he's 4,200. That said, not a huge minutes projection. 18.5 minutes. I don't love that. 1.30 DraftKings points per minute so far. I don't know how often we really want to be reaching that deep. When did he play? $21 the last time, 17. $21 put up 22 FanDuel points. I guess on just cheapo value to book that square. He's putting up the points per minute. What did he do last? What is he? I was expecting him in this territory. It's a lot more relevant than I was expecting him on DraftKings. Over 1,200 minutes last year. He was a 1.09 DraftKings points per minute player. So, like, if I go, what do I have him at? So if I just gave him what he put up last year in terms of points per minute, like just on the nose without factoring in anything about the game or whatever the model does, it would be a 20.2, 20.117. That would have an impact here. I don't know exactly to what degree, but it would probably land like sub 15, 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's not an insubstantial impact to take a point away from a guy like that. Assuming that this rate comes back to earth, I don't really love this play. That's just a sky-high small sample rate. Not that the model is considering that. It's basically projecting against last year's rate with this game environment. But out of, I think, everybody that I've talked about so far that I probably don't trust this Jalen Smith number the most, if that makes sense. It is just a cheap square. Cheap power forward spot on DraftKings. There's value in that. But really, this one I don't love. It's there, but I kind of do not endorse this one. Not saying the number's wrong. I'm just saying feels icky. Miles Turner, a lot more realistic at 14% of the time. 6,900 is a pretty decent price for a 1.26 DraftKings points per minute player. 1.26 on FanDuel. Lands in top lineups around 8% of the time. Not irrelevant, but one of the guys that's going to be blocked out at center just by Goga shares. And then when I go away from the excellent Goga play, it's probably going to be more for a little bit higher end. Oh, I mean, maybe not. Let's see, who's there? I would probably get some Wemby at that center spot. I would probably get maybe a little Sabo, although I don't love him. Yeah, maybe I can mix in. You just get handfuls of Turner and handfuls of Embiid. Just in a raw scoring sense, it's just easy to say I'll just take my Embiid. But given that he's coming up like half the time as what Miles Turner is, you probably do want some Turner. 23.2 in 26.6 minutes last time out was a clunker, but we know there are big slate-breaking games in Miles Turner. Horford, we've touched on a few times. Embiid, Cat, we've kind of talked about them. 10% of the time for Embiid on DraftKings. 11.2, definitely a much better price on DraftKings versus 12,000 on FanDuel. Single center spot on FanDuel. So you get the combination of being able to play him alongside Goga and the lower price, even against the lower cap, it's a relative slightly lower price. 1.71 DraftKings points per minute, a rock solid star player. Jokic, less relevant than his counterpart, 400 more. He's putting up 1.7 DraftKings points per minute, so that's a kind of another good illustration to talk about that question. That Beantown asked there, essentially the same guy, right? We can quibble about minor differences between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic all we want, but just in a raw sense, 1.7 versus 1.71 DraftKings points per minute, the $400 difference at the same position has an impact. It basically halved the rates at which Jokic landed in those top lineups versus Embiid. Now, you put them both at 11-2. How does it come out in the wash? That would be interesting to see. It probably just evens them both out at, call it 7. Or just, based on randomness or whatever, you get a little bit more, but it becomes more of a coin flip at the same price. The fact that Jokic is going up against an 11-2 Embiid in a lot of those spots where you didn't get this guy limits his the amount of times he would land there. SGA playing. Luka in, Kyrie in, SGA in. All three guys playing tonight. So that's how it's projected up on the site. So fortunately, no major impact to what's available for you guys and what's been up there and what we've been talking about here as far as SGA goes. But good to have that news ahead of time. Let's resort for FanDuel and let's get out of here. Handful of people still hanging out. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle if you're not already. Retweet those things. Congratulate our pal XX Cubs fan on his 100K victory in football yesterday. Somebody's going to take one down in basketball. I can feel it. FanDuel, not much difference. Goga up at the top. Wemby's got more value on the FanDuel slate for sure. 8,500, same price site to site. 1.37 again. Just can't reiterate how good this kid is. Sabonis, 34 minutes of 45-point projection. He's given us 1.36 FanDuel points per minute, 1.37 DraftKings points per minute. I don't mind it. 20% of the time in top ones, 15% of the time in winners. It's an interesting discrepancy between the two. So like getting into really good lineups, but not quite the top lineups. Kind of interesting. DFS coming up relevant, but he's a forward. A lot of forwards here. I think we've talked about all the relevant centers. Christian Wood, 24 minutes, not really relevant. Jokic, Giannis, AD, all falling by the wayside in terms of the amount of time that they're in the top lineups. But even single digits, these are just high-end single-digit darts that you can throw anytime you want. Nothing wrong with any of them. Şengün, Stewart, nobody really crazy to talk about down here. Ken Woodhouse, what's up, buddy? Glad you made it. About to wrap up, but glad you made it. Good to see you. Let me jump over here. We'll pull Ace Mine back up if I didn't close it, which I didn't. DraftKings first. And let me reshare that. These are the lineups that we ran before. Just our top 150s at the top. So these are the ones that we were just looking at the sim results for. Not the most legible zoom that we've got here. Some interesting combinations in some of these. Some Miles Turner landing in there. A lot of Gogas. DDRs, Franz Wagner. A lot of Orlando guys. A lot of Franz. Some Paulos. A lot of Gogas. Some Nas creeping his way in there, though. Torrey Craig, like I said, that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Couple of minutes in or out of the starting rotation makes all the difference there between Torrey Craig and Patty Williams. A lot of Goga. A lot of Paulo on DraftKings. Some Levine coming through. Good mix of stars in this point guard spot. Tyrese, Luka, Jalen, if you want to throw him into that mix. DeJounte Murray, Dame, Tyrese. So it looks like we're spending money at point guard on DraftKings. Taking some value out of shooting guard. Not necessarily every time. But taking some value out of shooting guard. Spending on Franz at one of the forward spots, at the small forward spot. Paulo at the power forward spot. I have no issue with playing those two guys together. Otherwise, you're going to some value plays. Center, it's Goga or the field. In the guard spot, looks like we can spend at the other guard spot as well. So you're spending a guard. Spending a point guard, spending a little bit, kind of split at shooting guard, and then making some of those guys back up at the just pure guard spot. Forward definitely is a value-ish, mid-range to value guys spot at small forward, unless you're using Franz. Or Levine, I guess. And then the utils just go to whoever. A lot of value guys, a lot of Gogas in the utils. Gogas, centers with Vooch, Nas, Drummond. SGA creeping in there. So a couple of even the expensive guards that we didn't get in any of these spots. Just interesting how these things come together. FanDuel slate, and do the same exercise. Top lineups on FanDuel. These are the same ones, again, that we just looked at the results for. So it has to get a little bit wider. Oh, come on, how big is the FanDuel thing? Why is it so much bigger? Aren't they the same number of players? Whatever. FanDuel, again, you always get a better looking lineup on FanDuel just because of the nature of the salary cap and what's available and what you can combine together. So it just reads better, right? Tyrese, Trae Young, Zach LaVine, Klay Thompson, Paulo, Torrey Craig, sure. Harrison Barnes, sure. Julius Randle, Al Horford, sure. But like a lot of that just reads better. But it does seem like we've got more spend on FanDuel, more Starsy on FanDuel. I would call these balanced, though, if you wanted to put a balanced versus stars and scrubs kind of a label on this slate. Definitely looks like some balanced lineups through here. Got a Giannis creeping in, surprisingly. See, that's, again, look at this. This lineup's got Luka and Giannis in it, by the way. So this one's kind of Starsy Scrubsy. That's, as I'm saying that. Luka with Reggie, Buddy Hield, Malik Monk, Austin Reeves, Torrey Craig, Keegan Murray, and Goga. Talking about a boomer bust lineup. Holy shit. That lineup had a average cash one of $121. Projected to 298 points. Which one was it? Shit. And when you do the full, in the full output, there's a ceiling score as well for the ceiling that it hit in the Sims. Massive ROI on that lineup. 0.17% win probability, 5.34% top one probability. So that's our second. Was it 0.17? Is that our second most frequent winner? Yep. All right, so that's a little. This is resorted by win rate now. That's our second most frequent winner. All right, so maybe it is a little bit more, despite how it initially looked, or at least that lineup. But this lineup, right? Like compare those two lineups. This is a balanced lineup, I would say. You got AG, Victor, or Wemby rather. I keep calling him Victor rather than Wemby. I want to call him Wemby, but I keep calling him Victor. Wemby's a more fun guy. Victor's more like straight-laced and serious. DDR, Clay, Tyrese, Dame. There are stars in that lineup, but it feels more balanced. This one is just straight up like I'm getting Luka and Giannis together, and I'm putting a bunch of value guys around it. But it works. No arguing with it. That might end up being my placeholder. Yeah, Jake, I'm with you, but sorry, I'm late. Can we start now? Yeah, let me rewind. But yeah, with you. I love Banchero tonight. Everybody in that Orlando rotation looks pretty good. That's just going to be a smash spot for a little while until either those prices change or some of those guys come back healthy. But yeah, really like the Banchero wagon. How do I feel about running Porter and Gordon in the same lineup, having Murray out, usually one or the other? Not something I had really given thought to, but I wouldn't necessarily be against it. Especially, again, with I didn't nudge the assist rate for Aaron Gordon. But with Murray out, I imagine that would go up. So you get Gordon doing a little bit of AG facilitation type stuff. Porter doing his usual thing. I could see it. Yeah. I mean, these are, in presumably some of these, they're together. Better on FanDuel just because they're both individually better on FanDuel. But I think it's certainly viable. When, like, gun to my head, hey, you can have this lineup or you can have that lineup, a lot of the time I will go away from pairings of teammates like that. But I don't mind it, especially when it's only two. If you get to the point where it's like, all right, I can put this fourth guy in and it's MPJ alongside Aaron Gordon with, Jokic is Jokic, but with Reggie and KCP, at a certain point, it's like, all right, Reggie, KCP, Aaron Gordon, and MPJ is probably asking a lot of that game. But if you're just talking about the two of them, I don't mind it at all. And really, as I'm looking at it, I mean, MPJ could be the guy that just... well, no. I was looking at those columns backwards. I was looking at this as rebounding and this as assists. It's the other way around. So yeah, AG, a little bit of a potential bump in assists and just does a lot of things well on the basketball court. And then MPJ just kind of doing what he does with maybe a additional minute or two, maybe a little bit of a couple additional looks. Time Lord, knee surgery, no timetable for return. That sucks. Draymond in. We had him in. That's the only other piece of news. So yeah, no issues with Aaron Gordon and MPJ. I just realized I'm not showing that on the screen. Got to get these questions in before I change windows because I'm too dumb to remember that I didn't. As I was saying, this is those two guys correlate. Or not correlate, but those two guys land in winners a decent amount of the time. They just individually are better on FanDuel. MPJ more relevant on the DraftKings slate. But yeah, no issues with playing them together. Change back. Gotta sell your pumpkin futures before Halloween. Before you naggle beak. Simpsons. I want to be able to minimize this and look at the lineups. So yeah, more outside of the big outlier lineup there, which will probably be my placeholder. More balanced looking with a lot of pretty good names in here. A lot of Paolo. So FanDuel's a little bit tougher to break down in a like spend here, save here kind of a sense. It just looks like a pretty even spend across a lot of these lineups. You can see all the names that we talked about popping up across the board. Tons and tons of Goga. Goga's the key on FanDuel. Horford, again, that one kind of warrants a look. but coming up relevant the way I've got him projected right now. And then, yeah, some Embiids and, like I said, some Turners, some Embiids, some other guys trickling in around the edges. But it is primarily Goga Day on the FanDuel slate at the center spot. That in mind, guys, 607. We got to get some lineups built for this thing and actually enter it. And then we got to build some football lineups. I'll be around, kicking around in the football Discord channel, but we're not going to have a football show. Real quick, just because I'm a sucker for you guys and you guys rock. Everybody hanging out here. Little bonus for the last couple of people, lingerers, hanging out with me. Let's do this. Hang tight. 1 second. Bury all of that stuff. Get this over here. That over there. Oh, shit. All right. I'm going to hide those, these, that, and DraftKings salary. All right. I think we can do this real quick. A lot of clicking. I don't know how that looks. Messy. All right. This is not the board you're used to seeing. This is just the actual projections file, which is real quick. I have Breece Hall at a pretty good number here, and I kind of like it. He's been at or about or above this number the last 3 weeks, essentially since the Jets said, hey, we're unleashing Breece Hall. He's full go the rest of the season after he came back, limited after getting hurt last year. So I feel like the industry, I'm not sure where Stochastic has him, but a couple other sites around the industry had him more around his seasonal average, which is this. And that just feels low. So I potentially really like Breece Hall tonight as compared to where some of the other places have him. I don't know where he's coming up. I haven't run any sims for this, but it seems like a really good spot at 14,000 on the FanDuel slate, 10-4 on the DraftKings slate. Justin Herbert and Zach Wilson, both of them will be relevant. Herbert obviously projects a lot more relevant, but Zach Wilson only cost 12,000 on FanDuel and 8,800 on the DraftKings slate. That means that Zach Wilson doesn't count for that. It's difficult to play quarterbacks in the multiplier spot. You can just play him there. So I think Zach Wilson's potentially relevant. If he has a day, Garrett Wilson probably has a day alongside of him. I don't really see that going any other direction. So I think these two tie together a lot of the time. And I think you can go a lot of lineups with either one of them in the captain spot on DK. Same story on FanDuel. It's a little less relevant on the FanDuel slate where you're just paying the full nut for any of these guys in the MVP spot. So we don't really worry about it. You just play them. And that said, I prefer Garrett Wilson over Zach Wilson in the FanDuel multiplier spot. But you can't ignore that $8,800 for a quarterback, even if it is Zach Wilson. Austin Eckler's an easy go-to option in any of those spots. He'll be popular but worthwhile. Just difficult to differentiate, get away from your dupes if you're just going to the Eckler plays, but obviously a guy who's going to be a key component of this thing. Keenan Allen, some of us need a very big day from Keenan Allen to stay alive in some season-long leagues, so hopefully he gets there, but probably not because we need it. Chargers D, you can absolutely fire up some Chargers D against the Jets. Dicker the kicker and Greg the leg. You can play either one of those guys. Definitely a lot of lanes where both the kickers are relevant today and the Chargers D is relevant today. Not necessarily both the kickers at the same time, but like equal opportunity for both of those guys to be relevant. The downstream receivers for the Chargers, Quentin Johnston, should step into a fair amount of relevance. It's just been attrition is finally going to get this guy his fair amount of looks and a pretty good opportunity here. You do have, coming back down the board, Jalen Guyton. Last I saw, he was still not relevant, not available on the DraftKings slate. Potentially a very good piece of value for only 5,000 on the FanDuel board. A deep threat. He's been hurt. Just coming back. Was still questionable last I saw, but potentially playing tonight. If he's in for 5,000, I will take my Jalen Guyton shots. Definitely potentially, one deep touchdown catch on a showdown slate. That is the exact kind of play you want. Dalvin not really looking all that relevant. Some interesting tight end play with Parham, with Tyler Conklin. On the Jets side, you've also got CJ Uzomah, who's a talented enough guy that he could be one of those slate bendy second tight ends for 5,500 for especially 200 on the DraftKings slate. For 200, give me 2 targets for CJ Uzomah in a good part of the field, and I'll take it. That's not bad. Darius Davis might get a couple looks in that Chargers passing attack. On the Jets, I do think that Conklin's somewhat relevant. Everett obviously relevant in the Chargers passing attack as well at the tight end spot. Allen Lazard supposed to play tonight. The presumable or nominal wide receiver 2 for the Jets, kind of low ceiling, needs to get in the end zone. Touchdown dependent Allen Lazard for 85 on FanDuel. Not great. 52 on DK, a little bit better maybe. Roughly the same price as the Chargers defense. That's not awful. So probably a little bit more Lazard on DraftKings than FanDuel. Love the Breece Hall play. If people are going by where the industry's got Breece Hall, if the industry's got Breece Hall where I saw him, I like that spot. That kid has major talent and plenty of opportunities. Just look at his scores the last 3 weeks. That's all we really need to know. And the Chargers, not an intimidating rush defense that I can remember. So that's it, guys. NBA done. NFL Showdown done really, really quickly and sloppily, but done. Got to get some lineups built. It is 6:15. We got to enter these NBA contests, get some stuff sorted. So with that, I'm going to wish you luck. Congratulations one last time to Dennis on his $100,000 victory yesterday in football. Somebody go out there and win 100 on DraftKings. Come in second behind me. I'm going to win 50K on FanDuel tonight. FanDuel's got to get those prize pools up. But yeah, good luck out there. Somebody go win something, and I will see you tomorrow for basketball, gang. Adios.